Hello and welcome back to episode 8 of our Satisfactory survival series. Last episode we did quite a lot, as you can probably tell, so I definitely recommend that you give that a watch before watching today's video. However, today we've got quite a lot to get done, and that's because in our last episode we spent quite a lot of time trying to make everything look presentable. And even though we are far from finished, that ended up taking a lot of time away from our main logistic work. So let's just get straight back into it. We can do that by working on our plastic and rubber facility, which I'm going to be building somewhere over here. And that's because we've got 2 impure nodes and 2 normal nodes over here, which will give us a total of roughly 800 crude oil per minute. And here's how I'm planning to split everything up. So again, we've got our 800 crude oil down there, which will be split 50-50, which luckily is just 1 impure node and 1 normal node combined, which is 400 crude oil. That will go to make our 260 plastic and our 260 rubber. This is not a lot, but for this stage of the game that we're currently in, it's completely fine. Regarding our plastic, this will then give us an additional 130 heavy oil residue, and regarding our rubber, it's 260 heavy oil residue. And combined, this will give us a total of 390 heavy oil residue. I'll then be transferring all of our heavy oil residue into fuel, where I can then burn it to produce an additional 3,250 megawatts. Again, this is not a lot of power, this is not a lot of heavy oil residue, and it's not a lot of plastic or rubber. But for this stage of the game, this is completely fine, and will give us the limited amount of resources needed to then build things like computers and circuit boards, which could in theory help us out here for our adaptive control units if we don't manage to get all of the alternate recipes, but this is a video for a different time. So let's leave our starter factory behind and let's go begin our plastic rubber facility. Luckily, this isn't really too far away from our starter factory. It's about a minute and a half, maybe a 2-minute walk at most. But here is all 4 of our nodes. They're fairly close together, fairly compact, which of course makes my life a bit easier so nothing has to get belted or piped for that far a distance. Plan's gonna be to try and get these extractors placed down as quickly as possible and just try to get some plastic and rubber made. I'm not too concerned about beauty just yet. Regardless, I'm very excited to finally move on to some crude oil stuff in this playthrough, because we've now reached the over 200-hour mark, and I haven't even made plastic or rubber yet, so it's about time we actually get this done. So, let's do it. So, all of our oil extractors are now in place, and I'm not really massively concerned about decorating everything just yet. That will come at a later date, but at this stage, the only thing I'm mostly concerned about is the logistics and trying to get everything actually done. I've also decided that I will be color coding all of our pipes. Black for crude oil, pink and purplish for our heavy oil residue, and orange for our fuel. Just like that, we've now built all of our refineries. Now, not only are our pipes going to be color coded, but so is our refineries. I think this adds a little bit of color to the factory, which I haven't really utilized much throughout my last couple of builds, so I feel like this is desperately needed. In total, just for this part, we have got 10 refineries. Here we are able to produce 200 plastic and a pretty decent amount of heavy oil residue as well. But we need 15 refineries, so let's just build the next 5. Luckily, as far as logistic goes, this was actually surprisingly easy, since all I had to do was replicate what I did on the other side. But you might have noticed, this is 4 refineries, not 5. And that's because I really wanted to have some sort of path coming down here, so what I've done is I've built 4 and I've overclocked 1 to 200% efficiency, and that's completely fine because I have like 300 power shards lying around. I wouldn't normally recommend doing this, but it made things look a bit nicer, so I think it was worth the risk. So now that is all of our plastic completely made, which is fantastic. Now let's focus a bit more about the rubber. So the very first thing I did was replicate exactly what I did with the plastic. Again, I had 4 refineries next to each other, I wanted a path, there wasn't enough room, so I made 4 and overclocked 1 to 200% efficiency. And that is basically it for this very first detail. Some of you may have noticed something, or should I say you haven't noticed anything. That's because there is no plastic and no rubber coming out of this facility, and all my refineries have yellow lights turned on. That isn't because I've done anything wrong, surprisingly. It's because everything's functional, but all my heavy oil residue is built up. I know that a few people might have been looking at that thinking I've obviously done something wrong, but again, surprisingly, no, it's just I've got tons of heavy oil residue that currently isn't going to go anywhere. But obviously that will eventually be making our fuel. But that can't be done until we've made all of our rubber. And guess what we've done? We've made all of our rubber. So we now have 260 plastic and 260 rubber all being produced in this very small little area. Even though this is only a temporary facility, I still want to try and decorate it as much as possible, but like I said a bit earlier on, that won't be happening anytime soon. At least not for me, it'll probably just be a few minutes for you guys. I suppose that's the beauty of editing. But before we get onto the decoration, now let's try and convert all of our heavy oil residue into fuel, since that's really important. Just realized I haven't actually showed you guys my logistic floor. That's because it's tiny and it's really compact, so I didn't really feel like it was worth showing. But yes, we have got a tiny little bit of conveyor work and pipe work going underneath our main factory itself. But again, everything is a little bit chaotic for this stage of the game. Just like what I did for the heavy oil residue, I have now painted all of my refineries in orange, and a little bit of like a cyan sort of like baby blue color as well to contrast it, which I've never really done before, like yellow and baby blue, but you know what, I feel like it works out pretty well. Now what I've got to try and do is actually do, you know, like the logistic work, because I can't really run a factory without any sort of logistics. I could try, but I won't get very far. So this refinery will be dealing with 60 heavy oil residue, and then this refinery will be dealing with 70. This means that everything that will be coming over from our rubber can just go into these 2 refineries, just like that. And then these 5 will be dealing with our plastic. The numbers are a little bit weird. We've had to overclock one thing over there, underclock that one over there as well. But it just means that I don't have to like merge and split any pipes down there, and I'd much rather have to under or overclock machines than have to split and merge pipes. If you guys have ever had to do that, you'll probably understand the absolute pain of it. You know what, I actually don't think this part will be too difficult, but knowing me, I've probably just jinxed myself, haven't I? Why did I say anything? Something rather incredible that I think they added in update 1.1 is that before, if I was to place down a pipe here, for example, it would appear grey. That's because I've got all my pipes set to grey. But now, because of the new copy and paste settings, which doesn't just affect signs, people think it just happens with signs, it also happens with machines as well and items. But now if I want this pipe, it will be orange, because it's copying over the colour and everything that this pipe's set to. So there we go, orange. Same with this refinery right here, for example. If I was to place down a regular refinery, just like so, normally this would appear grey since that's what my refineries are set to. But now it's orange. Not only is it orange, but it's copied over all of my settings as well. This new copy and paste feature is absolutely incredible. I didn't quite realize how important it was going to be until I started to play update 1.1, but let me know in the comments down below. Do you guys use it as much as I do? Because I must say, it is absolutely incredible. Regardless, my plans here is I want to try and hook this pipe down here. I want it to go underneath you, preferably not using straight mode. And I think I want to try and connect with you, and I've just realized I've painted you guys the complete wrong color. You're supposed to be purple for now, then orange in the other side. Whoops. I was going to say no one saw that, but I'm definitely leaving that in the video. So now that you've seen the way things are going to work, let's finish these logistics, let's make our fuel, let's burn the fuel, and let's get some power. And you know what? That was really simple to do. I did make a couple mathematical errors, but they have all been solved by now. So now it is time to actually place down our fuel generators. The problem is, I don't actually have them unlocked yet. Yes, I know it's a slight concern, only a slight one. Okay, so if I was to unlock it, as well as the industrial fluid buffer and randomly some Caterium stuff thrown in there, it's going to set me back 100 motors, which I've currently got, 100 encased industrial beams, which I've definitely got stored somewhere, a bit of rubber and a bit of plastic, so I'm missing a little bit of plastic and those encased industrial beams. Never fear, because I've got tons of plastic somewhere in here. There we go. Simple stuff. Okay, this makes sense. So when we actually check our fuel power generator over in the power tab, we can see that it actually requires 50 quickwire, hence why we were able to scan for Caterium. Okay, that all makes sense now. Overall cost though, we can see that it requires a bit of rubber, which is not too bad, a bit of Caterium, got some motors in there as well, so the overall price, not too bad. So how many of these things are we going to need? Well, if the burn rate for fuel is 20 per minute, and we've got 300 fuel being made, 300 divided by 20 is 15. That is the total amount of fuel generators I'm going to need. I can do some overclocking, but no. Having a quick gander at the total resources required, yeah, this is not too bad. Furthermore, we've actually been able to gather a pretty decent amount of rubber and plastic here as well, which is absolutely amazing. And for the first time in recorded history on this channel, I'm actually going to keep this nice and simple. we're going to have 2 rows of 8 fuel generators, which gives us 16 in total. We need 15, so I'll underclock 2 of them to only about 50%. And literally that is it. 1 pipe going in, and of course no pipes going out. Very simple stuff, really. Regarding the amount of room we have, again, this should be completely fine. I'm hoping we can fit 8 generators into here, but I guess we're going to find out. So 1. That's the wrong way. 2, 3, 4. Oh dear. Okay, we definitely can't fit 8 into there. 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we most certainly can fit 8 into there. We've got a perfect amount of room as well if we just grab that foundation. We bring a decent little path here along the side, so everything actually seems to fit absolutely perfectly. So this is what everything is going to look like. Obviously, I haven't yet done the logistics for the fuel generators or connected the power yet, but regarding the footprint, this is it. I know it's relatively small, and we don't normally judge size around here, but there's still a lot more I could add on if I really wanted to. As I say though, this won't really be generating a lot of power. The main reason as to why I've got this here is just to use up our heavy oil residue, and I mean heck, if you're going to give me power just for using up a resource I don't want, I'm definitely going to be taking that option, even though, again, it's not a lot, it's better than nothing. I'm also looking forward to doing a light bit of decoration. I don't want to go overboard here, because again, eventually I'm going to add a train station, a drone port, so I don't want to add too much detail just to remove it a bit later on. However, this is a fantastic start to the video, and it's only going to get better. Well, maybe, I don't know, it might even get worse. I haven't done it yet, so I can't really say if it's going to get better or worse. So now all I've got to try and do is actually connect our fuel generators to our power grids, and everything should start to turn on. Yes. But before I actually turned on all of these fuel generators, I made sure that they were all completely filled up with fuel. This way they don't turn on, then 3 seconds later turn off. But that should be about it. Yes. That is incredible. We're now up to 20,000 megawatts. So that, I believe, is, yes, over 3,000 megawatts now being produced. That is pretty good. I've also added these fluid buffers at the very end of our pipes in next to our fuel generators. I believe this is what you're supposed to do. For anyone who's actually better at pipes than I am, which is probably quite a lot of you guys watching, is this correct? Am I supposed to put this here? If not, oh well, it's going to stay anyway. But yeah, I feel like that's what I was supposed to do. And it appears that everything is flatlining as well, so we've obviously done this right, which is nice. So in under 15 minutes of the video, I've done everything I wanted to try and get done today, but we are obviously not done there. And that's because this factory looks like absolute crap, and of course it was going to look like crap. I haven't necessarily done any sort of decoration around it. So let's do some decoration around it. Very quickly though, we can see our plastic and rubber being produced, so again, it's fantastic that this is also working as well. And this is one design that I thought of. Essentially, it looks a bit bland right now, but I want to try and open this up potentially, then have a road going straight through it. I've already thought of a very simple design for that, which is, oh, look at that, our rubber's actually building up. That's good. Wait, no it's not. If our rubber builds up and then blocks that, it means that we can't produce any heavy oil residue. If we can't produce any heavy oil residue, we can't turn it into fuel, we can't burn the fuel. Okay, this is actually a pretty big problem. I didn't even think about this. So I think what I'm going to have to try and do here is very quickly respawn. Okay, things have taken a rather dramatic turn. And where I'm collecting all my rubber and my plastic, what I'm actually going to try and do here, very temporarily, is just empty all of that. Okay, you're fine for now. What I then want to try and do is go into my logistics, add in a splitter, one here, one there, and a merger. You go into there, you go into there. Now what we need is an awesome sink to go literally somewhere into here. This is not necessarily going to look beautiful, but as long as it's functional, that's pretty good to me. Then you're going to connect to you. Okay, there we go, that's the problem solved. I definitely also want to try and add in an extra storage container, at least for the plastic. I don't really care too much about rubber. I mean, we've got more than enough, but for plastic at least, maybe try and add in one more of these. Obviously, smart splitters would be much more preferred here, because as of right now, half of everything that we are using is going into our awesome sink. I don't really want to sink half of everything, but again, we haven't got smart splitters just yet, so we've got to work with what we've got. I definitely, though, want to try and add in maybe 2 more of you. That should be way more than enough. And the reason as to why I care more about plastic than I do rubber is because plastic is used for making something called coated concrete foundations, which are my favorite sort of foundations in the game. I'm very happy to see this is all working now. Anyway, back to what we were doing before. That was a bit chaotic there, but yes, I want to try and add a bunch more detail. Think of a very simple design for the inside of here, and then I'll come back to you guys when I've thought of something. There we go, I've added a little bit of decoration to the left and to the right there. It's nothing crazy, but it does the job that I want it to do. Additionally, I've also extended this foundation outwards here a little bit. And you know what I'm going to do for the walls? It's the exact same blueprint that I seem to be using quite a lot. And funny enough, I actually called it roof delete because I wanted to delete the blueprint. It was only going to be a temporary one. But now I actually quite like it. So what I'm going to end up doing is trying to place this right on the very edge of the foundation here. Same with over here as well. I think one further out. There we go. Perfect. And in regards of height, we're not quite at the ceiling height, and that's completely fine. I can just adjust that over time. But let's see how this is going to end up looking. If I just place a couple of these down over here, then a couple on this side. Then if I was to also add this blueprint up here, for example, how does this look? Honestly, it doesn't look too bad. I feel like we might have to add some more lights out here. Not entirely sure about that. Maybe even change that light out there to match the cyan. But overall, you know what? I actually quite like it. Just make sure to cover the roof in concrete. Now, this looks fine, but I don't necessarily know how far back I want to try and go over to this right-hand side. I suppose what I could do is try and find the exact center of this build, which I can do by calculating the... Why are you red? Wait, what? Oh, we are completely out of fuel. And you guys are yellow. Why is that? Because you're completely out of heavy oil residue. Then you guys are yellow because you're completely out of crude oil. What's gone wrong over here? Okay, so you're an impure node. Okay, I found the problem. So it looks like our normal node is going towards the 5 refineries and our impure node's going towards the 10 refineries? So that's probably, yeah, okay, so this must be the normal node. Yeah, roger that. Okay, so that's a very simple thing to fix, but really annoying though. Well, that's rather annoying. So wait, now you guys are also yellow as well. What's your problem? Okay, your problem's actually you got too much heavy oil residue. Okay, so literally everything over here now is flashing yellow. I'm hoping within the next 10 minutes we should see some green, because this is pretty bad, to put it lightly. And here's our power grid, where we're peaking as of right now at 19,225. So again, we'll check it in 10 minutes, see how everything goes. But like I was originally going to do, let's try and calculate the width of this. We'll say up until about this area over here, which is 22 in total, which means that 11's the middle. Okay, great. So now I'm going to do the exact same wall design as what I did over there. And regarding this tunnel, again, I'm going to bring it out. It's going to do some sort of left turn over here, then continue going straight. I also want to try and leave some room eventually again for a potential train station, or, well, most certainly, for a drone port at one point or another, because we are going to be needing thousands of crude oil per minute. And whilst I'm here, I might as well collect this. It's so loud. There we go. Luckily, one of the best things about building out here is that we are relatively close to the Spire coast. So again, all I really need here is a very small train system or a drone again just to fly from there to there. Because if we check the map here for a second, again, we're down here, our starter factory's over there, and our coal power plant is over here. This is where I'm going to be building everything to do with rubber, plastic, and fuel, as well as, of course, our rocket fuel factory in the later stages of the game. So we can very easily just import or export our crude oil over there. So that's always pretty handy. But now all I've actually done is add a couple of walls, and it instantly looks a bit better. I mean, heck, even the bean seems to be enjoying us. However, my mind is instantly set on expansion. I want to try and expand over here to the left side, but what am I going to add? Is this where I want to have the drone ports? Well, not really. What I'm then thinking to do is have that loop around the entire right side of the screen there as well, to essentially form a hollow square in the middle. That is where I want to have my drone port, right in the middle of this factory, with a decent gap around the outside. There's also room if I do want to add a train station, but that's not going to be happening for a while. And I know I haven't even got drone ports unlocked yet, I haven't made any of the batteries, I'm not even remotely ready for drones. But I like to at least have the rough infrastructure ready for when I unlock drones, which makes that part of the process so much easier. So now let's turn our fuel generators back on, let's build the shell of this final expansion of the plastic and rubber facility, and then afterwards we can then do a little bit of decoration if I'm happy with the way everything looks. And of course I will show you guys how it looks before I do it, just in case it is unbelievably crap, which hopefully it won't be. Exactly how far back do I want to go? I don't actually know as of right now. Again, I do want to have upwards of, I don't know, like 4 drone ports maybe? Is that a bit too much? Potentially yes, I'm not quite sure. But regardless, I still want to have our 4 drone ports over here somewhere. So I think if we were to go up to around about here, let's say, that should be far enough. Or even try and make it like into an exact square. That could be a good idea there as well. So we seem to have 3 little gaps on this side, then our main walkway there in the middle. 3 more gaps over there, so we'll go 1, 2, 3. I mean, to be fair, this could also be a really cool area to try and utilize as part of this factory, although I have no idea what I'm going to be able to do with it. I don't want this to be too big a project, because yet again, it's temporary, other than, of course, the drone ports, which will be here for the rest of the playthrough. So I do want to make sure that's relatively presentable. Regarding that rock, yeah, no ideas from me. If you guys have any ideas about the playthrough, by the way, any additions you would like to see, do comment it down below. I do read every single comments that I get on these videos, and thank you, by the way, for all the kind words from the comment section, because so far, this series has only been met with positive reviews, so generally, thank you very, very much. Yeah, this seems like it's going to end up being a pretty cool looking project. So the outer perimeter is done for now. Of course, again, we've still got to add in all those power storage units, but that's not really right now's problem, since we've got another problem on our hands. And simply put, that's now designing the actual inside of this square. The very first thing I want to try and find out is how big is a drone port. So let's hop over to our creative world. There we go, and here's a little grid that I've made. It just lets me know how wide this actual port's going to be. So I'm going to drag this down, so that the lines are definitely in line here, because, I mean, that would most likely help. There we go, just like so. So we can see that it is roughly 1, 2, 3 foundations by 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's exactly 3 foundations by 3 foundations. That's not too bad. However, we do have to take into consideration that our main logistics actually just about hang over the side here. So one could argue it's either 3.5 or even 4 foundations by 3 foundations, which again isn't really too bad here. So if I was to have 4 of these guys next to each other, so we go 1, 2, and again somewhere over here 3, 4, this is roughly the footprint it will take up, which isn't really that bad. In total, this will be taking up a 6 by 7 space. Due to the logistics involved, considering there's both a liquid and potentially a solid that's going to be transported out of here, I want to try and have a very small logistics floor underneath this. Now we can add this to our 1.1 playthrough, which we are now 229 hours into. What is going on? This playthrough is just flying past. And we're only on episode 8, that's mad. So now let's make that 7 by 6 space. And because we are dealing with an odd number, what I'm actually going to try and do here is make sure that I place this here in the middle. So just like that. And everything is now going to be coming out of this. So we're going to go off by 3 in this direction, then 3 in that direction. This keeps everything nice and central. And I think this area could look rather nice with some concrete down here, rather than just a bunch of sand everywhere. So let's come down by about 2 meters, then go out as far as we can. There might be some sand popping out occasionally, especially here in these corners, but overall everything should be sound. So here we've pretty much got the very first quarter done. There's a couple more details I want to try and add, nothing too crazy though. And overall I think this looks fine. The main point of this decoration isn't to make it necessarily look too chaotic, it's to try and bring a little bit more attention to the actual drone ports itself. So hopefully when all of this is done, it should serve its main purpose. Additionally, I feel like the actual view of this place looks rather nice as well, so hopefully we can try and continue the pattern. Not really too much to show around here. I suppose I will end up talking about this wall though. So I've gone for quite a dark concrete pillar over here, followed by a dark base and also a dark wall here in the back. The reason as to why I've done this is to give a bit more attention over here to the regular basic wall. This is because it makes it stick out a little bit further, and you can actually see the gradient of the dark shape over there, the lighter shape than the darker shape again. So the actual depth of it does look a little bit better than if I was to paint everything just with a regular sort of white concrete look. I've also tried to add a little bit of colour here with these road barriers, and of course with these markings here on the ramps, which don't look too bad. I've also gone for asphalt inverted ramps there as well, because again it adds a little bit of darkness. If I wasn't to have gone with that, and if I was to stick with regular concrete, again, it sort of gets rid of that dark depth sort of look that I'm trying to go for, and it just looks a bit out of place. So even something very simple like adding a tiny asphalt ramp, in my opinion, does actually change the build quite a lot. And as you would probably notice by now, I love adding depth into builds. For example, the depth here is different to the one up there, and this ramp's different to the one up here as well, slightly different depth, and then there's another ramp, another concrete wall there, another concrete wall. So you've got at least 5 different stages of depth in this one wall itself. So I do want to try and continue that around here. As you can see, I've started, I haven't quite finished the top yet. And of course, do that for every one of these corners. In total, this only took about 20 minutes, so we should be completely done here with the foundation within the hour, which is fantastic. And also, the bean seems to really enjoy this area as well. So that's nice to see. The good thing is, after we do this, we can then design the actual main drone port itself, since again, this is a bit of a sidetrack, but oh well. Oh, there's the parrot. And then we can try and design the actual outer wall, which, as you'll see now, is looking a bit crap. Eventually, if I do want to add a train or a truck station, I can just build it to the end of this. I don't want to redesign all of this all over again, so everything that I'm building now is here to stay. However, before I end the shot and try and build everything off camera, there is one final thing that I do want to try and do on camera, and that's actually turn on all of these fuel generators again, since, again, we had to turn them off a bit earlier on, which is quite annoying. But now, I don't see a reason as to why this won't be working. And if this doesn't work, then I've clearly messed up my maths somewhere down the line. So that's 3,750 megawatts. And all the lights here appear to be green. So let's connect that to that. And then hopefully that should be a decent spike. Yes. We are actually starting to have problems with our coal power plants, but I don't even want to, go back over there and see what the problem is. Because quite frankly, I haven't got a clue what it even is. Everything should be fine, so yeah, I'm ignoring that for the time being. Anyway, let's build this thing. Okay, that took way longer than an hour, but you know what? We've now got it done, and overall, I don't think it looks too bad. And as we can see, I've already started to design the drone port area itself. Overall, the concept's very, very simple. As you can see, I've got 4 yellow pipes going into this main square sort of area. There's going to be a tiny logistics floor with our main drone ports right above that. I'll probably tweak the design here and there, but overall, this is how it's going to end up looking like. So like we've previously established, all of our pipes will be going up here, underneath the ground over there, collecting all of the crude oil which will be coming from that direction. We then have to add a wall up here. What I'm then going to try and do is find the exact middle of this blueprint, which is somewhere out here. So now we're left with another square. We'll then cover you with the basic wall, including here on the inside. Then what we have to try and do is grab an inverted ramp, and hopefully, there we go, face this to the outside, just like so. And then within a few minutes, you've got yourself the foundations for what you need, which is pretty nice. I've also got a few shots here of what this project looks like during the night, and I think with all the lights coming from the signs, it ends up looking rather nice. So, what now? Well, we've still got one major wall left to do here on this side, and another major wall over on this side here as well. I'm wondering, have I got a blueprint that I could potentially use for all of this? Maybe. There's no way this is going to work, right? Well, I mean, kind of. You know what? This doesn't look too bad. Let's see what we can work with. I know it's a blueprint I've already used, but there's no rules in Satisfactory saying that you can't just reuse blueprints, especially if they work, and I feel like in this situation, they kind of just do. Even on this side of the wall here as well, I don't mind these little parts sticking out, since it stops everything looking completely flat. Also, about 3 seconds after I ended the last clip, I have decided that this is where I actually want to extend the wall. So it's not going to create an L shape, it's just going to go out in one straight line. This way, if I ever do want to build a train station, I can just build it in this little gap straight in front of us, rather than having to completely redesign another part of the factory. So this makes my life easier, and I also think it will look a little bit better too. I think this project's going pretty well so far, although I am unsure if I actually want to try and build anything on top of this little rock. Same thing regarding this little rock up here as well. I don't know what I'm going to build here yet, but maybe the idea will hit me eventually. Although we have got some geysers over there in the distance, so maybe I could build my geothermal generators and attach it to this particular build. That could be rather interesting, but again, we'll see what happens with that. As of right now, though, we've got a wall to finish. There we go. All of the interior and exterior decorations are done for today. However, we're not necessarily finished with today's video, because there's still one thing left to do, which I've been talking about now probably since the first 10 minutes. And that is trying to add in the power storage unit. And here's a pretty decent location for them. So let me very quickly show you what I'm actually going to end up doing. Firstly, we're going to grab a wall, zoop it all the way down to that side. Make sure that all of these gaps are completely filled in, just like so. The second thing that we're going to end up doing is going over to power, then selecting our power storage units, which I can't afford. Fantastic. Regardless, all I'm going to really have to do here is try and find the middle spot here of the foundation, and place in one there, leave a gap, one, leave a gap, one, etc., etc., so that it's going to try and essentially mirror itself both on here and over here as well. Then do the exact same thing over here on this side, and again, this is where our train station, if we ever Whoa. I haven't seen that one before. Hello, Bean. Can I free you? I didn't scream. But yeah, if we ever do have a train station, this is where it's going to go. I would describe this as a rather tedious process, but to be fair, it has to be done. Well, actually, no it doesn't, but we've started it now, so now it has to be done. This might be quite a lot of power storage units, but you know what? I feel like eventually we might need them. It's not going to hurt my game if I had 1,000 of these placed down. And without spoiling the next episode, let's just say we are working on something beginning with the letter A and ending in adaptive control units. I'll leave it up to you to guess what that item may be. But regardless, thank you very much for watching, liking, and subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.